Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Lakeville State of the City address. My name's Doug Anderson. I'm privileged to serve as Lakeville Mayor. It's great to see you all here. I'm glad you're enjoying the fruit and bagels and coffee and juice and whatever else is out there. Thanks to all the city staff for putting this together and having this great opportunity for us to get into a little bit about what's been going on around the city and what is yet to come. So I got thinking last night about the question, what is the state of our city? And maybe all of you might have an answer you'll come up with in terms of what that would be for you. But for me, I would say our city of Lakeville is great. We have a great state of affairs in our city. Does that mean we're perfect? Absolutely not. Does it mean we have challenges? Absolutely, we have challenges. But overall, I think we are in an outstanding position. Does it mean that we have great leadership, staff, volunteers, and other partners? Absolutely. Does it mean that we have a very low tax rate, strong industrial and commercial activity, great faith communities, great schools, and various types of residential housing? Absolutely. Does it mean we have great parks, a phenomenal arts center, great civic organizations with awesome events like Panaprog and Taste of Lakeville and all kinds of other stuff? Absolutely. So this morning we're going to dive into some more details around what's going on, about what's going on around Lakeville. So I'm grateful that you're all here. Let me just introduce a few folks as we get started. We have some representatives here, our legislative representatives here from the state of Minnesota. And if you could just stand, we'll hold our applause till I get done. If you could just stand quickly when I read your name. Senator Dan Hall is here. Representative Roz Peterson. Representative John Kosnick is here. There he is. We have a representative here from Congressman Jason Lewis's office. Angela Sadlicek is here. We have my fellow city council members are here, Brian Wheeler, Luke Hellier, and Bart Davis. We have representative here from the county, our Commissioner Mary Liz Holberg. We have representatives here from the schools. We're served by 3 different school districts. Judy Kelleher, Jay Haugen, and Michael Bauman are here with us. And last but certainly not least, we have our representative from the Met Council here, Wendy Wolf. So let's say thanks to these folks for their service. And now it's my privilege to introduce Justin Miller. Justin's going to provide the information on the first section of our presentation this morning. Some of you may not know, Justin actually got started in his city administration career in Des Moines, Iowa, and a few years back. And then he moved from there to Chanhassen, and then Valken Heights, Mendota Heights, and finally has ended up where we love to have him here in Lakeville. And Justin lives in Eagan with his beautiful wife Diane and their beautiful daughters. And Justin's going to handle the first part of our presentation. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for being here. There's a few people I also want to thank before we get into the meat of this. The presentation day really was put together by one person. That's Katie Bachmeyer. Katie's in our Community and Economic Development Department, so thank you for that. And then for basically keeping this all together, and me every day, is Tamara Wallace, who's in our office too. And so let's give them a hand for helping put this together too. So it is indeed a pleasure to be here today, and we're looking forward. I'm going to kind of take a step back, tell you what happened in the past year, and then the mayor's going to come back and he's going to tell you where we're going in the next year. So what happened in 2017? To put it bluntly, a lot. You know, if you just look here, these are just a few of the businesses that either opened, expanded, or started to break ground in 2017 and in 2018. So if you look here, we have hotels, we have restaurants, we have daycares, we have manufacturing facilities, we have automotive. You name any industry, any sector, and chances are that there's some component of that opened up or decided to land here in Lakeville. In fact, 2017 was a record-breaking year in Lakeville. we processed over $270 million worth of total permits. That's commercial, industrial, and residential. And like I said, that was a record. And we didn't just squeak past this finish line. We blasted through the finish line and broke that record by $20 million, which was last set in 2003. See, these are just a few of the largest valuations that came through. But what I'd like to say is that $270 million, that wasn't just permits. That's $270 million worth of investment that was put into the community. And that's $270 million worth of developers, commercial business owners, residential people who are committed and have confidence that Lakeville is a good place to live, work, and play. And not surprisingly, when you start to add that many businesses, you also start to add jobs. And so we have been on a very sustained uptick in the number of jobs that are in Lakeville. But we do know that 75% of these jobs are filled by people who live outside of Lakeville. And we also know that about 84% of Lakeville residents have to commute outside of Lakeville for their job. And so part of our economic development strategy is that we are going to continue to try to attract those jobs that were listed on that first slide so that we can continue to provide those high quality and well-paying jobs so that Lakeville residents don't necessarily have to commute to get to their jobs. And it's no surprise if you drive around that we also build a lot of houses in Lakeville. And of that $270 million in permits that we talked about, the vast majority of that is in the residential side. So we processed over 530 single-family homes in Lakeville last year. And that was by far the most in the Twin Cities. And for at least 4 years now, we have been the strongest builder of single-family homes in the Twin Cities. And by default, that means the state. And so we're actually on pace to meet that current number again. Through January, February, and March, we've issued practically the same amount of permits that we did this time last year. So I'm not going to guarantee we'll hit 534 again, but I think that'll be another strong year in 2018. And we've also seen a strong increase in just overall total number of units. So while we issued 530 plus of single-family units, we also, for the first time in many years, saw apartment development here in the Twins in Lakeville. The multifamily demand is really reaching out into the suburbs, and Lakeville is no exception to that rule. And we broke ground on 3 different apartment projects in Lakeville last year, one of which is already open, the other 2 are currently under construction, and that was over 300 units. And so Minneapolis is always going to be a different leader in that number, but as you can see, even when you take into account the other cities that also are pretty heavily invested in multifamily development, we are right up there with those total number of units as well. And like the mayor mentioned earlier, we're lucky to be served by 3 different school districts, all of which have their own strengths and all of which draw people to live there for different reasons. And these dots on this map just show where those 530 units of single-family homes were spread out throughout the city. The vast majority is in the Lakeville School District of 194, just by land size, but 196, which is the Eagan, Apple Valley, Rosemount District, and then 192, which is the Farmington District. And we're lucky to have them all. We have partnerships with all of those organizations and those school districts, and we're very lucky to have them with us. As I move forward now, I'm going to start to highlight some of our operating departments. And I think you'll see a common theme with all of these. And the first thing I'm going to talk about in each of these is an award of excellence that was either given to a department or a project or an individual within that department. And we're going to start out with the Parks and Recreation Department. And this year they received the Minnesota Recreation and Parks Association Award of Excellence. And that was for the Westlake Marion Mountain Bike Trail. So a few years ago, there was a group of local residents, biking enthusiasts, who said we needed a bike trail in the city. And through their fundraising efforts and their sweat equity, they put a lot of work into that. We opened the Westlake Marion Mountain Bike Trail last fall, and it's been a huge success. And like I said, that was recently awarded the best project of the year by the Minnesota Park and Rec Association. We're also finishing up our master plan for Antlers Park. We've acquired some extra land around there. As if anybody's gone there on a summer day, you know it can be very crowded. And so we're looking at expanding that. And we also retrofitted our Dodd Trail Park pickleball courts, or they were tennis courts. We've translated them into pickleball courts now. That's one of the fastest growing sports, especially among our senior population. And if the snow ever melts and you go by there on a weeknight or a weekend, I guarantee you there will be a line there, and you'll be waiting to play. And I've heard that the winner keeps the court. So you better get your game in shape if you want to be able to take that court. And then, again, through generosity and donations from the Lakeville Baseball Association, we're continuing to increase the lights at King Park, and that's going to help make that complex of fields usable for many more hours through the season. And then our Heritage Center continues to be successful, housing our Lakeville active adults, the Historical Society, and the Yellow Ribbon activities. Our Arts Center really is the crown jewel of downtown, and if you haven't been there, I really encourage you to. Our Arts Festival each year attracts thousands of visitors. This year it attracted 10,000 people to downtown just for that one event, which is a 1,000 people increase, and we had over 92 artists there. Our on-stage productions attracted a lot of people, and in fact, we have almost 50,000 visitors each year to the Arts Center. So when you think about that, that's 50,000 people who might or might not live in Lakeville, but are coming downtown and are helping support our businesses down there as well. In our Public Works Department, within the past year, we hired our first city forester. And within that first year of hiring Emily, she received the Minnesota Community Forestry Practitioners Award of Excellence. And if anybody has had the pleasure of working with Emily, either on the phone or having her come out and take a look at your trees, you can understand why. She's been a great addition to our city. Anybody who traveled through town last year knows that County Road 50 was shut down. And again, weather permitting, it's going to be shut down again this year. But that's going to be a great addition and will really help traffic flow throughout our city and will help accommodate the growth that we're going to be experiencing. We also have a pretty aggressive residential street reconstruction program. We're in the middle of that. We'll be doing that again this year. And with the growth, we have to drink water. And so we've been able to drill 2 new wells, 21 and 22. They'll be coming online this year. And unfortunately, we did have the emergence of the emerald ash borer and our zebra mussels. The emerald ash borer is mostly seen in the northern part of the city, but with Emily's quick work, we've got a good action plan to try to contain that. And likewise, when we discovered zebra mussels at Lake Marion, we took a very aggressive action plan. And so far, cross your fingers, we haven't seen the expansion of that. And so hopefully when we reevaluate that this spring, we'll be in good shape. I did mention downtown. We will be finishing up our Holyoke streetscape improvements this year. This is about a $1 million project, $1 million of investment that we put in downtown. Once everything gets finished this year and you'll see the new seat walls and the planters go in, it's going to look really nice. And personally, I just want to thank the Downtown Lakeville Business Association and their members for their patience and their support during this project. Construction is never easy, especially when it's right in front of your business and your livelihood, and we really do appreciate their patience and their support for this. So it's no surprise to us how important our police department is and how well liked they are and how professional, but it's nice to see that some members are starting to get some national attention. So Dave Watson was recently named the Minnesota American Legion Officer of the Year, and because of that, he got to go on to the Midwest competition, and he was recently named the Midwest American Legion Officer of the Year. And so what that means now is he gets to go on to Washington, D.C. and compete for that as well. Our reserve officers, so these are volunteers. They actually volunteer about 3,200 hours a year, and they help in community events like Pan of Prague, the 4th of July, Block Bash, Taste of Lakeville. They are an invaluable resource to our police department. And each year they nominate and recognize one of their members who's done the most service, and this year that's going to be Brian Bixby. And, you know, our police department, I think, has a very good reputation, and that's not something that every department can say. But that's not by accident. And a lot of that is due to their outreach efforts. So I've listed just a few here: the Shop with a Hero, the Coffee with the Cop, Toys for Tots. They also go to a lot of National Night Out parties. They do little things like install car seats, make sure that people like me who have a lot of car seats, make sure that, that they get put in safe. And then they also do more sobering things, like they just recently did a seminar with our Chamber of Commerce on the horrors of sex trafficking and how that is a very local thing. And so we're appreciative of their efforts. And then likewise, our fire department is very well respected too. Each year they also nominate somebody by the leadership of the department a Firefighter of the Year, and this year's was Todd McNamara. And they also do a lot of outreach themselves. So they installed 100 stovetop fire stops. These are little devices that you put above stoves, mainly in mobile home parks, that keep grease fires from expanding. And then they also installed 178 smoke detectors that when they were out doing their inspections, they saw some that either weren't working or weren't there at all. So these are genuine life safety improvements that I can guarantee you in some cases did stop fires and did save some lives. And then with the generosity of the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation, they were able to buy a drone. Now, a lot of people have drones now, but this is a really cool drone. This has an infrared camera on it that they can fly around in a case if they need to find somebody, but they can also put it in cases that's going to help firefighter safety as well. And so we're really appreciative of the Public Safety Foundation for coming to the table with that. And then finally, Lakeville Liquors. So this is a really big deal. Beverage Dynamics is a national magazine, and for the first time, Lakeville Liquors, well, I should say for the first time ever, they nominated a municipal store to be their National Retailer of the Year, and that happened to be Lakeville Liquors. And this is really due to the business acumen of our director, Brenda Visnovec. She not only looks out for the financial returns that helps fund city operations, but as you can see in the different fundraisers that they do, our customers through Lakeville Liquors give a lot back to the community. And right now our food drive is going on, and we're already halfway to this total that we met last year through 1 week. So thank you to all of them. You'll also notice if you drive by our Kenrick liquor store that there's a for lease sign out front there. We're not getting out of the liquor business, we're going to stay there, but we were able to work with a developer to do a sale lease back of that property, so actually we're probably closing today, right, Alan? So we'll be getting some money up front for that to help infuse our future expansion efforts for Lakeville Liquors, but then this will turn it over to a developer who's going to build 2 end cap retail uses on the end of those properties and hopefully provide some more traffic for those sites. And it does also put the property back on the tax rolls. So it was a busy year in 2017. We have a lot to look forward to in 2018. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mayor Anderson, and he'll take us forward.
I was remiss when we started to do a couple more introductions, and I know there's some other city staff that are here. Chris Petrie and John Hennon and Daryl Moore are up in front, but there may be other city staffs. So could we just have the city staff stand up, and let's say thanks to them for their great work. And the one that I really was remiss at not doing was to introduce my wife and my mother-in-law. And I want to say something about this. I want to say something about this first, that as I get into my part of the presentation, I'm going to talk about partnerships. And one of those partnerships is with our business community. And when you go way back into the legacy of the city of Lakeville, back when it started, there were a number of families that I would call legacy families. I'm very fortunate to have married into one of those. Sorry. And it's obviously very personal to me. And I'm very proud to introduce my mother-in-law, Martha Erickson, who is up here in the front row. And my dear wife, Deb, is up here as well. And as all of us elected officials know, it's important to have support of your family to do whatever you do, and I'm grateful that I have that support from home to be able to do this. But my father-in-law, Jerry, and Martha started Erickson Drug back in 1963, and again, one of the legacy businesses here, and really were influential, one of many families and people that were influential in helping to create Lakeville to be what it is today that we have the privilege to steward for a period of time. And I'm very grateful about that. But I am going to talk about partnerships. And first partnership is with our business community, and Justin just presented what's happened in 2017 while we are off again to a robust start. And that includes a Target store refresh. We have some multifamily housing that's going up. Compeer Financial, we're very excited about, is moving their headquarters here, and will start their project very soon down on County Road 70 and I-35. Local business Hobo is expanding, and lots more that's going on in our business community. As far as building permits, specifically, we've issued these permits as we started off the year from restaurant, several permits up in the northeast corner of our community up by Hy-Vee. Sometimes our residents don't realize that they're actually in Lakeville up there, and we want to remind ourselves that we have a 38 square mile community, and we're fortunate to have that retail center being developed. Deb and I went up and had our first meal ever at Freddy's Steak Burger, which is a new restaurant that's opened up there, and I hope you'll find your way up there to do some shopping soon. Street improvement partnerships. Again, partnerships is really the theme that I want to kind of hinge on here. Our great staff and us, and for us as City Council, we really can't do the work that we need to do without having solid partnerships with a number of other entities. And a lot of those entities are represented here, particularly on street improvements. It's our relationship with the county that makes this happen. And they do phenomenal work. We've been under road construction for, it seems like, forever. Particularly along Highway 50. If you happen to live along Highway 50 like I do, we've been detouring for a number of years, and that's going to continue, not only this year as the section between the roundabout and Jaguar is completed, but next year we'll be working from City Hall here out to Cedar and making some really needed safety improvements on that section of highway, as well as Hamburg will be improved. That's a city project. And then, of course, on top of that, we're working on County Road 70. That's coming down the pike, and our business community is very excited about that, but that will be changed as well. So we'll need to be working together with those partnerships. And then our residents are our partners as well, as we do annual residential street reconstruction. And so those programs are underway, will be underway soon. Once we actually officially declare spring is here. And again, business partnerships, we have a very, very strong partnership with the Lakeville Chamber, and we're grateful for that. They are helpful in coordinating ribbon cuttings and welcome opportunities for our new businesses. We keep track of our business counts. We think we have over 1,100 businesses in the community. That's probably well short of what the actual business level is because of home-based businesses and other things that we just don't really know what's happening. So we're grateful for all of the business activity from industrial to commercial to home-based business in our community. And to hear about that, we're going to hear from Jacob Zika, who's a chiropractor who opened up a new office here in Lakeville this last year.
4 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lakeville, and we knew almost immediately that this is where we wanted to settle. We love the school district. It's great. Actually, my son is a kindergartner this year at Eastview Elementary. Couldn't be more satisfied. Just a great city with great parks. Definitely a growing city, so we're excited to be a part of that growth, but also to be a part of the business community, get to know people, and really to be a part of serving the people of Lakeville and the community.
Just a quick little snippet in terms of his ribbon cutting ceremony. So community partnerships. The Lakeville Public Safety Foundation was already mentioned. This has been this group has been a phenomenal asset to our community, and we are so grateful for the organizers. Our public safety team says a huge thank you. And we as City Council, on behalf of the whole City Council, I say thank you to this foundation. It has really helped us advance things forward beyond what we have the kind of day-to-day capacity to do, and we appreciate being able to work together. We've got a number of other community partnerships. Justin already mentioned the bike trail, the Lakeville Cycling Association. DARTS provides some support for our seniors in our community. We've got lake associations. We have civic organizations like Rotary and Lions, et cetera. We have phenomenal faith communities that provide a foundation in our community. So we are grateful for all of the community partnerships that we have. Arts Center. I think sometimes we forget to think about what a wonderful asset we have in our Arts Center downtown, and the people that came before us that were stewarding our community at the time, and our residents and businesses that had the foresight to think about having an arts center. I think we're living out the vision that they had those number of years ago. And if you haven't been an active Arts Center user, whether it's to go to pub nights or to go to a play or to finally fulfill that passion to do pottery or whatever the case may be, the Arts Center is there for you, and it is in downtown. I mentioned a little bit ago the Hy-Vee area up in the northeast corner of the city. We've got 4, 5, 6 pods of kind of commercial retail development, and of course downtown is one of those. School and sports partnerships. I think Lakeville as a city, we're known for our athletics, particularly with our schools as well as our athletic associations. If we would try to list all of our athletic associations on a slide, it would be too big to put up at the screen and you wouldn't be able to read it. So we picked out a few. We didn't intentionally exclude anybody in terms of our associations. We're blessed to have so many different groups and activities which put us in a position that we need to always consider and are currently considering advancing forward additional field space and ways to support both our schools and our athletic association. The partnership here with our schools is really important, and we're grateful for those partnerships. And as we move toward the finish, planning for Lakeville's future. This has been the big project. We've been working on this last year. City staff has done a phenomenal job all the way from putting just the process together to taking extra time and hosting all of the district meetings across the city, 2 rounds of those. We've had work sessions, we've had other kinds of discussions around updating our comprehensive plan. We're moving toward the finish. By the end of the calendar year, we will submit this to the Met Council for approval, but we're going to be moving shortly into the stage of having it reviewed by neighboring communities. It's difficult to see this up on the slide, but if you just go by the colors visually, if you look to the right-hand side, and you can see a lot of yellow there, and in the midst of that yellow, there's some red and orange. Those are the retail kind of multi-use pods along Cedar Avenue that will be supported by the transit as it continues to move south. And that's all new development area in our city. And that's where we'll see a lot of growth in the next 10 to 20 years. Envision Lakeville goes hand in hand with our comprehensive planning process. 5 years ago, we brought together a task force of residents and business owners and students to work with us in terms of looking at the city of Lakeville and helping us envision where we want to head for the future from a services standpoint, from an amenities standpoint, et cetera. And so it's 5 years now, and we're going to be updating this work this year. Community survey will be going out very soon and be in your mailboxes to a select group of folks. And that task force will be reconvening, and we will be updating the whole Envision Lakeville process. One thing I do want to mention along with Envision Lakeville is we continue to think about, as we continue to think about what we look like for the future, we have a really unique opportunity coming up here in May. We have a citizen who has connected us with people at an organization called Blue Zones. Blue Zones has been doing work across the country over the last number of years based on a lot of research, and they do work in the area of community wellness. We already do a lot in our community as far as wellness, but this may be an opportunity for us to look at an umbrella of how to kind of meld together all the work we've been doing and have a little more focus as we move into the future. We're going to have an exploratory conversation with Blue Zones that's coming up. I think it's going to be in May. There'll be more information coming out on that in the next week or two. But I'm excited to explore that and see if there's a possibility for us to take a look at that as something we might want to lean into. And lastly, looking ahead, for this year, we've got a lot going on, as we've already said. But of course, every year in the summertime, we get focused in on our budget and taking a look at how we continue to be great stewards of the resources that you, our citizens and businesses, provide to us. So we'll be working on that, the capital plan, as well as the budget. We have a lot of conversation to continue to have around parks. Justin mentioned earlier the Antlers Park opportunities with that master plan. We've got other things with parks we need to take a look at, and we need to be considering as we look toward the future in terms of how we fund those improvements. And then lastly, there's a couple public safety enhancements that we have been exploring and will continue to explore, and we look forward to do that with Chief Meyer and Chief Long. And that brings us to a close. And Justin Miller is going to come back up here, and we'll take about 5 minutes or so. And if you have a question, we'd be happy to answer that. And thank you all for being here. Is there any questions for this morning? Representative Peterson.
You're mailing out to obviously not everyone, so will there be an electronic version that people can do that way?
Absolutely. There was a question, in case people didn't hear, about the community survey. So it's going to be randomly sent to, I believe, 1,600 residents across the city. But at the end of the time period, they're going to send us a link, and anybody can be able to take that. And those results will be kept separate so that the statistical significance part of the initial survey will be kept separate, but there will be an opportunity for everybody in the city to take that same survey.
Any other questions? If not, we'll stick around for a little bit, and thank you again for coming this morning and for your partnership. Thank you all. Enjoy the day.